I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and we need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
we're going to try this again. I think we got it this time, Randall. We called in the tech crew, also known as Randall McGrew, Justin Hall, and Eric Leitsky, but we got it working. And I'm hearing thunder now, so hopefully it continues to work. But anyways, we're back for the second time today. Randall, we're going to get a race here. We're going to be at, help me say this, is it Oschersleben? I think that's how you say it.
Oschersleben.
Oschersleben. Well, it is Germany's third permanent race circuit, not just an actual permanent building like I messed up the first time. So, yeah, we're here. It's right after Nürburgring, Hockenheim Ring. Been open since 1997. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here today. Randall, give me your thoughts. Where are going to be the tricky spots in these SRFs?
It really depends on car setup, but I think turns 1 and 2 and 3 are going to be the biggest mistake generators here. This is a very tricky track. I kind of relate this place a lot to Spa-Francorchamps, where you have two distinct sections of the track. You have the slower sections through the first half of this track, and then the faster section in the back half. And you're not going to really find a setup that works for both. So you have to pick where you want to be fast and prepare to hang on for the rest of the lap.
Well, I think hanging on, as we saw in the first race of today, that was definitely a big deal. So we'll see what happens to him this time. But let's get into some points here, Randall, because we've actually got points. We're starting to get this figured out. You know, it's only taken us a couple weeks, but we got Jason Green up here, first place in the S1 with 363 points. Elise Pleva second, 353. Daniel Wood in third with 255. And then it gets really close, actually, from fourth through sixth. 246, 244, and 234 for Claudio Gardini, Joshua Justice, and Bobby West, which, as we've seen, are all pretty fast. In the S2, remember, this is 3,000 I rating and under. S2 points, Andrew Love is absolutely running away with it right now. Russell Telker in second with Arnis Yurcevics in third place. And now in the Masters, we always say it, old but not slow. These are our 60-plus guys. Jorg Mani, we saw him last race have a bit of an issue. He's on Team Old Farts, leading the way in first place with Antonio Reese hot on his tails. Randall, I think that's going to be a battle this whole season. They seem to be very close.
Absolutely. It's going to be one we're keeping an eye on every week and in every series. It seems to be always those two that are leading the Masters division.
Absolutely. We've got Tom Gradwell there in third place with Brad Cathcart in fourth and Wayne Buttermore in fifth. But we're going to get here and we're going to start to go do some racing, Randall. We're going to try to get you on a lap around the track here.
It's a very tricky combo here. All my experience on this track it has always baffled me that I didn't know cars could understeer and oversteer. But you experience both at this track. Again, it really depends on setup where you're going to be fast. You got to pick your poison. Do you want to be fast in the slow bits, fast in the fast bits? So we'll see what these drivers decide to go with. We're going to be on board here with Josh Soto as he's coming through the last corner. Gets a little bit of that oversteer I was talking about. Sets up for a quick lap here. Blend over to the right side of the track for a very quick left-hander on turn one. Looks like he's backing out, actually, so we might need to jump on with somebody else. Now, with Jorg Mandy coming through that last corner, we saw Josh Soto struggle here. Jorg gets a much better run, and he's going to have the benefit of the slipstream from a car ahead of him to lead him down to turn one. Turn one, a very quick left-hander that you have to sacrifice for the very slow right-hander that follows a turn two. You see, he's got to deal with this traffic and does not anticipate the driver pulling off, and he's also going to abort. So we're going to find somebody else. Somebody eventually is going to make their way through, and it's probably going to be this guy, current pole sitter, Dudu Castro, coming to turn one. And see how quickly he takes this first corner. We hear him lifting and not getting back into it, rolling that car down, and we're going to see this is one long corner, but they're going to treat it like a double apex because it gets close to that sausage curve, runs out to the exit curve, brings the car back to the right. Now we got to have a long left-hander. This bit of the track reminds me a bit of Snetterton, where you have the track kind of doubling back on itself, and it will confuse you as to where you're at because you're going to be doing a bunch of left-handers. We have another one of those triple apex lefts where the apexes get a little bit more decreasing in radius each apex. You can see he floats it through there pretty good. A long right-hander. You really want to set up. You're waiting for that into that apex curbing to come into view before you get back to the throttle and open up that steering wheel. A quick right-left chicane where you can really abuse the curbs that leads into a decently long and high-pace right-hander, and he's going to stay on the left side of the track at exit. Going to have a quick right, then left. Not quite close enough together to be a chicane, but pretty high speed. You're going to sacrifice the exit to open up the entry for the left-hander, run all the way out. You can get yourself in trouble if you run too far out past that curbing and pick up an off-track. A quick right-hander to set up the approach to the pit entry and the last corner. You want to make sure you keep one wheel on the right-hand side of that white line as you come into that final corner. Get a nice late apex and a good drive off down the start-finish straight to set a flying lap.
That was a pretty quick one there by Dudu. He did set a purple second sector, and there it is, 35.260. Extremely fast with about 4 minutes left here in qualifying, Randall. We didn't get to see him last week. We'll see what happens this week. But yeah, it's going to be definitely going to be interesting.
And I can tell you a little bit about what I saw from Dudu in practice. He came in early into the practice session, set the overall fastest time that stood up through all of practice, parked the car for about 30 minutes, and then came back out in the last few minutes of the session just to practice pit entry and pit exit. Pit entry and pit exit are extremely difficult on this track, and you really have to attack them. That pit exit is super tight, and if you haven't practiced it, you will definitely be caught out by it.
Yes, you absolutely will. We're on board here with Caleb Pocock as well. He did set a fastest first sector. I don't know if that's going to be faster for him not. We're just going to put him up there in 20th place. We got Scott Russell as well on a flyer first sector. Also, big shout out to JVC, Jordan, and Michelle, rooting on their drivers and rooting on the stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Michelle saying, let's go, Megan. We were just on board with Megan Overstreet just a little while ago, but right now we're watching Scott Russell. Going to be coming across the line. Final corner, Randall. That one looks like it's going to be tough, and there he goes.
Got it a little bit wrong, and if you get it wrong, even just a little bit wrong, he's getting it way wrong. But even if you get it just a little bit wrong, it's going to cost you a lot of lap time.
And we have people going wide even behind him, so that he's not the first person that's been doing that. For sure. Probably not the last either, especially when you get into racing here. Where are the best overtaking opportunities going to be on this track?
Turn 1 is a really juicy opportunity, but you have to be very careful going through turn 1 too wide, because turn 2 becomes a real traffic jam really quick. Turn 3 is another good opportunity. Is a decent straight run up to it. Turn 11 could possibly be a place if you're able to keep right behind somebody through that quick chicane of 8 and 9 and that quick right-hander of turn 10. But I think turn 1 is where you're going to see most of the action.
Yeah, well, I am super excited to see that. We've got about 3 minutes left here in qualifying, about to turn 2 minutes. Drivers that haven't been out yet, someone like Jason Perry coming out right now, has got to get a lap in. I mean, he's got 1 lap, if that, to be able to get this done now. It's going to be tight. Why do you think he was leaving it so late? And he's going out. Where's he going?
I think he's looking for a place to have a picnic. We saw last week that he did not set a quality time at Monza and drove his way through the field as best he could. And that, I think that's just the name of his game. This league does not have a rule specifying that drivers must attempt to set a qualifying time. I think he's just exploring the facility to see what all is available out here for post-race celebrations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we are looking at Jason doing donuts right now, because nobody else is setting a faster time on the track. If you look at the bottom side of your screen, you can see the split times down there, and everybody seems to be going slower. Randall, do you think that's due to track heat or just tire wear? Because I know a lot of these people have come in to get new tires.
I think it's tire wear. These cars that fall off after a couple laps, you won't be able to maintain quality pace. We see a lot of outlaps of people trying to come out, get some heat into the tires on an outlap, and get one more good flying lap in at the end of the session. So they will have a little bit of overlap if they cross the start-finish line before the checkered flag to finish their lap. But we're coming up on just under a minute to go. Track temperature, as you noted, is a little high, 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Not scorching, but not cold either. That would be 37 degrees Celsius if you're of that bent.
We got Jordan Thurston in here as well saying, I want Soto or Love to win. Obviously, we got one in here for Megan as well. Megan, as we saw, well, you guys didn't see, but as we saw, was fast, made another mistake last race. Starting, and I don't mean this in any bad way because she's a fast driver, Randall. It seems like one mistake and she's got to be driving her way back up through the field. If she can keep it clean, she's got a serious chance to win this race.
Absolutely, and that's one of the hardest parts about racing in general, sim racing in particular, is you really feel the urge to push early, and sometimes that can bite you. But we've seen her drive through the field and back and regain positions many times, so she's perfectly capable of being fast and challenging for wins.
Yeah, she absolutely is. And right now we're looking here again at the, you can see at the top, Dudu Castro up there in first place with Elise Pleva in second, Megan sitting there in third, Joshua Justice at fourth. The top 5 are all S1 cars. Then we've got Jorg Mani again. I mean, the guy is every time. He's a fast old guy. And then we've got Jason Green, another S1 driver. We have to get all the way down to 13th place to see our first F2 driver.
This is a very technical track, so it's not a big surprise that the S2 drivers aren't able to hang with the S1 drivers as much, both on single lap speed, and we'll see when it comes time for the race with consistency and lap times and not making mistakes. So there is an opportunity for an S2 driver to make big moves and gain a lot of positions here. mostly for the LS2 drivers, it's going to be just keeping it clean.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, while we're waiting on the grid to come up, you want to talk us through, because I know the points are a little bit, not weird in this league, but you get rewarded more points for finishing higher up than you do. So it's not like it's not a very linear system, let's say. And also, everybody's racing for the same amount of points.
That's right. For first place, you get 100 points. Second place will give you 90, so that's a 10-point gap. Then it's a 7-point gap back to third, a 5-point gap to fourth, and then the gaps get smaller and smaller the further down the leaderboard you are. So if you're in that lower class, you want to finish as high as possible, not only for more points, but more gap between the next cars.
So we've got Todd Martin out here on track. I'm sorry, Randall. I don't know. Is this lap going to count? It looks like it's going to. He went set a personal best there in Sector 1. Sector 2 was yellow, but that doesn't mean much. If he gets this right, we'll see exactly where Todd can put that number 207 Spec Racer Ford at. Crosses the line now. Looks like another yellow-ish sector. 36.845, so it puts him up into 18th place.
So a decent lap there out of Martin. We see Antonio Reis is still on track. I'm not sure this lap is going to count, but he is not coming into pit lane, so he's going to try to get it across the line, and it looks like he came up just short.
It's unfortunate. Antonio Reis back there right now in 8th place with Jorg Mani in 6th. They're going to be starting nose to tail here, Randall. It's going to be interesting, but you know what? You read through the whole grid last race, so I'm going to try to read through it this time. We'll see if I can make this happen. Yeah, all right. So we got Dudu Castro there in 1st place with Alace Pleva beside him in 2nd. Megan Overstreet 3rd. Joshua Justice 4th. 5th is Joshua Soto, always a name to watch out for in these races. Jorg Mani, the first driver in a different division, the Masters division, with Jason Green in 7th. Another S1 driver, Antonio Reis, in 8th. Daniel Wood 9th. Jesus Rodriguez is in 10th with Claudio Gardini in 11th. Jeff Fritcher starting in 12th. 13th is going to be Joshua Wilkie, the first driver in the S2 class, with Andrew Love in 14th. Tom Gradwell, Masters class, in 15th with Ken Poulin in 16th. Brad Cathcart in 17th, another Masters driver. Caleb Pocock in Todd Martin in 18th. Adam Bradshaw, Masters, in 19th with Caleb Pocock in 20th. Scott Russell in 21st, S1 driver, way down the field there. Jim Brewster there in 22nd. Charles Vaccaro 23rd with Russell Telker in 24th position. Got a lot of drivers on here tonight. Jeff Jacobshead in 25th with Jason Greider starting 26th. Jason Perry starting in 27th. Stevie Ray said he had something come up and he wasn't going to be able to race, and I think that's the case. Stevie Ray, Gary Wobolt, and Bob Kern not taking to the grid here, Randall. So we have a total of 27 cars on the docket for tonight. Should be a good one.
Absolutely, it should be. We're going to have a lot. This is going to be a rather long pace lap, so some of these drivers may be better than others at actually getting these tires up to temperature during the pace lap. So we could see a lot of shuffling going on early in the race based on who's able to get some good heat into those tires during this pace lap.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Again, turn 1, Randall, especially. You've got a pretty long straight going into 1. Do you think we're going to see some moves here into 1, 2, 3 wide maybe? If they can make it 3 wide, that's going to be the tough part, because it is it's a quick left and then right again. That could cause some issues.
I know we have some aggressive drivers at the front of this field. We're going to be watching the likes of Josh Soto and Jorg Mani. I would not be surprised to see either of them send it 3 wide. The problem is that straight is wide open and it looks like you have all kinds of room, and then you get into turn 1 and it chokes way down, so it could become a bit of a hazard really quickly.
It could, and big shout out, by the way, we've got Jordy Fike in the chat as well now. So Jordy, thank you so much for tuning in, and also we got Sudi in the chat. Sudi's watching, so it's gonna be a good race here, guys. Stay tuned. 5 concurrent viewers right now. Keep those up. Keep the chat rate up. That's how we get us. That's how we get this out to more people to watch this amazing racing. But yeah, Randall, it's gonna be a good one. I'm gonna turn it over to you, and let's have at it.
I mean, we still have quite a ways to go in this pace lap. It's gonna feel like absolute misery going this slow around this track for some of these drivers, especially in the midfield. The drivers up front want to get this race underway, want to condition those tires. We don't see a lot of weaving around or jamming onto the brakes or anything like that to try to put temperature in. So they're trying to get some temperature at pace speed just by going through the corners. But we don't see a lot of extra activity, because right now Dudu's not really respecting the too wide field there, but he's clear, so he's able to do it. We'll see how this shakes out at the start. But they're coming down the second straightaway between turns 10 and 11 now. We could see some action on this straightaway if somebody's able to follow through that chicane very closely.
Sorry, Randall. I'm checking the chat right now as you're talking. Megan has extra downforce because of her sponsor with wings. That is the punniest thing I think I have seen all day. I've got the pun master sitting right behind me, though, so I can't give you the overall pun, but Michelle, that was a pretty good one from for Megan Overstreet's livery.
There's another sponsor that gives you wings, and hopefully she doesn't drive like one of those drivers. As they're coming through the last quarter, the safety car peels off into the safety of the pit lane. Dudu Castro going to lead these drivers through the last corner. He's going really early, gets a jump coming through the last corner. We're underway. The green flag is in the air. Dudu Castro cleared of Megan Overstreet with a less play, but going to be challenging up the outside possibly. It looks like the front pack, part of this pack, has gotten into single file line pretty quickly. Could come through turns 1 and 2. Maybe back in the pack we'll see some action. As actually everybody's shaking out. We have a little bit of contact back there, but everybody shakes out pretty cleanly, mostly single file as they approach turn 3.
Yeah, great racing so far. No full sins. Dudu Castro still leading the way. Megan Overstreet there in second. She was able to gain 1 position. We got a lot of people rooting Megan on. We got Jordy Fike in here saying Team Soto for this one. So yeah, gonna be good here. We did see Soto at Monza. He was extremely fast and extremely aggressive. So in a good way. I'm not saying Soto is a bad driver at all. With real life racing experience as well. So yeah, Soto there in 4th place. Jorg Monty there in Masters class, first driver in Masters. Kind of stuck right now in between an S1 sandwich, and then we've got Antonio Reese, which is still right behind him. I mean, he's only 1 spot back there. Everyone's taking it extremely easy right now, Randall. I'm impressed.
Yeah, this is a tricky time of the race. You need to get those tires up to temperature, and this slow section of the track now complete would have been the most difficult on cold tires. Now they're going to easily get some temperature at some of these higher speed corners as we finish the first lap. Dudu still leading the way, and looking at the timing stream, Megan Overstreet and Josh Soto both gained 1 spot. Aless and Josh Justice both lost 1 spot, so it seemed like that leader line was the preferred line, and they were able to get a better start, mostly because of how early Dudu went.
Absolutely. Looks like we got a move here. The 207 car going to be trying to make a move on Brad Cathcart. Is he going to be able to get it done? There is going to be contact.
Contact. That track chokes off so quick, and it looks like another car off behind, probably as a result of trying to avoid that incident. Before that, we saw Gary Wobolt take to the pit lane. He's showing as a lap down already, so an issue on the first lap. Jason Perry making his way through the field right now. Up 4 spots from where he started, so getting that taken care of early and trying to make his way up towards the top 10.
Antonio Reese is coming. He is now straight on the back of Jorg Monty for the Masters Division lead in class. Right now fighting for 7th and 8th overall. Got Wilkie and Love there in a battle as well for the P1 in the S2 class. Things are starting to shake out here, and it looks like we're going to have some pretty good racing. If maybe not for the win, looks like Castro is still keeping that gap at around 0.4 of a second, but we may have a move here with Love and Wilkie.
Yeah, we have 1 car off the 160 car there, pulling off into the grass and falling down the order. That would be Jason Green, one of the favorites to win this race. He loses a few spots. He's back on track and able to get going again, so hopefully no damage on that car and able to do some recovery and gain some of those spots back. But it looks like we have a breakaway. The top 4 have established enough of a gap that there's not going to be much slipstream unless they start fighting. We see Les Plava there sticking his nose out, filling up Megan's mirror as they come towards turn 1. Right now, Dudu still seems to be the class of the field as Josh Soto loses it in turn 2, comes in just a little hot. is there parked on the inside, and it's going to be absolute disaster for
Oh
Soto.
my goodness.
He's going to lose so much time, gets it going back in the right direction without collecting anybody else or contacting that inside barrier. But heartbreak now for Josh Soto as he's down below. He's not even in the top 20 anymore.
Take a look at that fastest lap, too. Josh Soto just set that fastest lap, and he looped it in turn 1 and 2. I mean, just the direction change in these cars. You mentioned it, Randall, and you got it right on the head. Turn 1 and 2, very difficult for vehicles like this. Very little rear end downforce.
Yeah, it's easy to carry too much speed into turn 1, and then you have to pay it back in turn 2. And he was not able to pay all that debt off, and just ended up looping it on his own. Probably suffering a little bit of having excess speed from that slipstream, because he's got a triple slipstream ahead of him, so he's carrying a lot of pace.
Yeah, all right, and here we go. We're going to see it. Into turn 1, does okay. Turn 2, it just starts looping. It was a very, very slow spin. Soto tries to get it off the track, doesn't hit anything. That's good, being very careful. Yeah, great re-entry as well, but very unfortunate.
And good heads-up driving by the rest of the field to give him some space. Luckily, he was at a point in the track where most people have pushed away from that apex curbing naturally as they run a double apex. We see an overtake here. Megan Overstreet falling down the third, Les getting around her. Doesn't look like she fought it too much. Kind of let it happen. Just going to settle in here in this top 3 breakaway. The breakaway is even bigger now after that incident with Soto.
So I don't know if you guys could hear that, and I apologize. I meant to turn off the driver radio, but there was a little bit of driver radio. It sounds like Megan went ahead and let Elise around. Maybe Megan knows that Dudu is just a bit quicker. She's relying now on Elise to drag her back up there to make this a 3-car battle again. Dudu now is almost a second away, and as you mentioned, Randall, at Monza, that's the magic number for draft.
Yeah, anything past 1 second, what you really get is just a vestigial. It might keep you from losing more time on the straightaway, but you're not going to close back up. They're right there at that threshold now. Alesh will have the benefit of that gap, so he doesn't really have to brake any earlier. He can send it into a couple of these corners and maybe close it back down, but we see it's opening up through that section of 8, 9, and 10. It opened up by a couple tenths nearly, 1.5 tenths. So Dudu definitely got the pace this week. And we saw in qualifying a few tenths faster than P2. In practice, he was nearly a half second up on P2.
Yeah, he is absolutely flying right now. Jorg Mani is still getting absolutely hounded by Antonio Reese, though. I keep trying to go back to this battle. I keep thinking there's a move. It looks like there have been some overtakes back and forth here. Oh, no, as Jason Green goes wide, this may be Jorg's chance. Did Jason give Antonio just a little bit of a slow up? It doesn't look like it. Antonio down to the inside. Hopefully going to be able to make this move. Oh, that was close. Jason goes a little wide. Antonio has got to get by, and he knows he's got to get by Jason to stay close to Jorg Mani right now.
Jason looks like he's struggling a little bit in this phase of the race. Hopefully he can kind of calm it down and not let one mistake become a bunch of mistakes. Start making his way back up through the field, but Jorg Mani taking advantage of the situation, puts a car, now 2 cars, between he and Antonio Race. So we see Rodriguez has made his way around Antonio.
We've got Wilkie and Love still locked in a battle as well for P1 over, or not P1 overall, P1 in the S2 division. We're only 8 minutes into this race. I mean, we still have another 33 minutes to go, Randall. They are battling. How is this going to hurt their tires at the end of this?
It doesn't seem like they're getting side by side too much, so they're not fighting super hard. They are just trying to keep the pressure on each other, so the tires should be in pretty good shape right now. We see a car running wide coming out of that final corner. They're really struggling there.
That was Love.
That was turn 10, not the final corner.
Yep, that was Andrew Love, the guy that's trying to chase Wilkie down for S2 leader. That's not going to help his chances. Andrew Love has definitely fallen back. He's 0.7 of a second now off the back of Joshua Wilkie, still within that draft. We've already got people coming into the pits. Daniel Wood
going to be an early taker. See him attacking that pit lane pretty good right now. He's got to make sure he gets it rode down in time to not get that speeding penalty as he's now applying the brakes and gets it down to pit road speed. But he's coming in early. We're not even a quarter way into this race.
Yeah, that seems like a very, very early pit stop. Now, I don't know much about pit stops. Randall, you've raced with me, and my strategy calls have never been good. You are the strategy guy. You like all those numbers because you're a bit of a nerd. and a Marine. So yeah, that's 2 strikes against you. But give us your pit window, if you know the pit window around here, and when do you think the best time is?
So they have about 7 gallons of fuel on board, and the race is going to be 25 laps long. It seems really early. Normally they have about 30 minutes of fuel, which means you got to make it to at least the 10-minute mark. So either Daniel Wood was experiencing an issue and wanted to come in and get repairs, or he's going to be saving fuel for the rest of this race.
Well, speaking of saving fuel, that is something Alace Pleva can't do because he's got to get closer to Dudu Castro. Dudu absolutely just screaming away from the field now. No draft help at all. Antonio Reese, is he already pitted? No, he's got damage.
Disaster for Antonio Reese. It seems like he's got some heavy front end damage. We'll have to see what happened there. And it looks like it also involves the suspension. He's not very sure-footed coming through that left-hander. We'll see. Likely see him dive into the pit lane here.
Well, we've got a bit of a development here. We've got Jeff Fritcher now on the back of your, not on the back, but he is now in 2nd place in the Masters class. Wonder if there was a bit of contact between those two. We will have to go back here and see if we can find that. It doesn't look like there is any type of anything really to show what happened to Antonio Reese.
And normally that's an indication that Antonio had an incident on his own. We don't see any other cars around him with damage, so it might have been on his own. We joined on the replay here. He's already received the damage, so it happened well before this, and none of the cars around him or behind him also have damage. So it's going to be difficult to see as we see him dive into the pit lane. That car is in a sad state.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for Antonio, but nonetheless, we go back to the racing. We've got Jeff Fritcher now in 2nd place in the Masters class. Jeff, not really a name you've heard so far this year, so it's going to be great to see Jeff up there, hopefully battling Jorg. Monty Jorg in a battle of his own right now with Claudio Gardini still in 1st place. We've got Dudu Castro, and this battle between Wilkie and Love is really starting to separate now. About 1.5 seconds between those two. Looking through the field here, trying to see what kind of as Rodriguez just gets around Fritcher as we were talking about him, but looking for a bit of a battle here. Jeff Jacobson right on the back right now of Jim Brewster. See what he can do.
Absolutely. Trying to keep that pressure on, fill that mirror up, hopefully produce a mistake. Right now, we see he's at the tail end of the main group within this field. The pack is spreading out quite a bit, especially up front. We see a 3-way battle here. We got a big group on the front straightaway now, but these groups are getting smaller and smaller and more stretched out. So drivers struggling around here are quick at different parts of the track, and this is not a surprise at all that we're seeing these groups form up, and we'll may even see some of these groups just develop down into duos.
Yeah, absolutely. But what Jorg doesn't want right now is to be getting slowed up too much, because Rodriguez is coming and Wilkie is holding on to the back of him. Jeff Fritcher has lost a few positions in the past few corners. Wonder if there was a bit of an issue with Jeff, but still on the track. Yep, Jeff Fritcher. Let's see what exactly happened here.
We watch him coming through. It's hard to say where on the track he is at this point.
Right into the gravel.
Coming into the penultimate corner, runs a little bit wide, gets into the gravel, has to deal with cars on the inside, not able to get a good run through that final corner. Keeps it on the island after that, but it does cost him some time in a couple spots.
Absolutely. Dudu Castro still holding that interval right now at 1.5 seconds. Megan Overstreet is now 3.2 actually away from Alace Pleva. Jason Green is the leader of this 4-car train, maybe trying to track Megan down. You can see they're working together a little bit. They're really not trying to do much passing right now, maybe hoping that they can get up to the back of at least Megan. I think Dudu at this point is going to be a long road to go to get to him.
Absolutely. We see in that group also Joshua Justice keeping it nice and tidy in that 99 car. And the tail end of that group is Jorg Manny. We go back further. We got Rodriguez and Wilkie in a fight, making a move to the side. They're gonna get through here. They leave enough space there. Everybody's able to make it through clean. Oh, a little contact there as they go into the second apex of that corner.
That looks like they did okay. Jesus Rodriguez does make the move. Nope, not yet. He is still fighting with Wilkie.
Rodriguez and Wilkie, getting maybe a little touch there, getting a little squirrely. Behind them, Jeff Fritcher and P2 in the Masters trying to close that gap back up to Jürgen Manny. These two are really going at it. Wilkie is really applying that pressure.
He is. I mean, Rodriguez got around him. Rodriguez also got around Fritcher, but Wilkie is not giving him as much space as Fritcher did. It looks like now Rodriguez is just able to get a little bit of a move through the Shell S's. About to go through. You ready for this one, Randall? Well, here come the Shell S's now. I'm going to try to give you a name, and this is going to show my Americanness very, very well. But they're about to come through the Sachsen and Haupt curve with the
Gesundheit.
K and a URVE. So yeah, I am definitely not German, in case you guys couldn't tell. But anyways, yeah, Joshua Wilkie still back there in 9th place. Fritcher back there in 10th. Rodriguez up in 8th. Jörg Manny, always still one of the better drivers we've seen in the Masters class thus far this season.
And he's on the tail end of what will be the battle for 4th place. So he's in a good position to maybe jump some of these drivers on the pit strategy. We'll see how that shakes out as we approach 15 minutes into this race. We should see some people maybe take to the pits early, but for the most part, I think these drivers are going to want to run it out a little bit further towards the end of the pit window, maybe try to take advantage of pitting in to avoid some traffic, or possibly try to get the undercut done.
Yep, absolutely. Also, big shout out to the people in the chat still rooting on Jordy after watching that slight issue. Maybe a bit bigger than slight from Joshua Soto saying, bummer. Michelle said, oh no, Andrew, when he went a little wide. Andrew was able to kind of regather himself. Doing okay now, but yeah, it's one of those things. Joshua Wilkie right now, he's got Jeff Fritcher in between him and Caleb Pocock, who is actually catching Joshua Wilkie. Haven't been really paying attention to this. That gap was about 3 seconds. It's now down to about 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds.
Yeah, we see a group reforming here, which is unexpected, but could put on a good race, a good battle. We see Wilkie ahead of him, 2 cars ahead, running a little bit wide through that quick right-hander, and manages to get it back under control for the left-hander, but he has lost contact with Rodriguez now. As we see Fritcher diving into the pits, we're starting to see the pit window open. We're seeing early takers. Fritcher is going to be the first of those early takers.
Yep, Fritcher into the pits early, maybe trying to get out, maybe saw that he was going to start having some issues, getting slowed down a little bit. Now let's see what Wilkie does. It would be probably smart of Wilkie to keep doing what he's doing now. He's got nobody in front of him. Caleb Pocock as well has not pitted, but oh my goodness, Caleb is now right on the back of Wilkie. I wonder if Wilkie's trying to do a bit of fuel saving here.
It's possible he could be doing some fuel saving, or maybe he's overheated the tires and is trying to get him back into a good working range. The Pocock showing some pace where Wilkie's struggling.
He absolutely is. We've got Gradwell there as well behind Pocock. Jeff Fritcher on pit exit right now. See where he comes out. 22nd, maybe 23rd, 24th, 25th. Looks like he's going to come out way back there.
Yeah, he's given up a lot of track position, but it'll all pay out after everybody cycles through the pit stops, as long as he can get out of the pits clean. And I'm watching, and it looks like he does get out of the pits clean and is able to rejoin, and he doesn't have much traffic, so he won't have a slipstream on the straights, but he'll have that clean windshield and a good the ability to take some of these corners without having to deal with any traffic.
Yeah, and this is the issue that I've always found, especially, I mean, online racing. I haven't had the opportunity to go real life racing, but when you come out this far back, like you're almost at you're at the mercy of other drivers around you for not wrecking, because the last thing you want is to be involved in an incident this far back.
That is definitely the risk of pitting early, as you find yourself in traffic. He managed to find a window where he could come into the pit and doesn't have any traffic around him, so this could pay out to his benefit and gain him a couple spots on the undercut. We just got to see how powerful that undercut actually is.
Well, speaking of undercut, let's go to undertow, because Caleb Pocock is definitely now in the toe of Wilkie and has closed another 0.2 of a second that last lap. I wonder, man, Wilkie is a very, very fast S2 driver. You can tell he's really not trying to give it up. As Wilkie closes again, he's getting better corner exits as well.
Yeah, he seems to be good on corner exit. You got to wonder if Pocock here is playing the game of patience and hoping to see Wilkie in his rearview mirror after the pit stop. Wilkie needs to kind of ignore that mirror until he's under actual threat from Pocock. Focus on the road ahead, make sure that he hits his marks, and I think he can keep this spot for now. But the pit stop is really what's going to be the decider in this race, I think.
We do see pit stops happening now. Perry, Telker, both into the pits and out there on pit exit. That will cycle them to the back of the field. Really what we're looking at right now. Joshua Justice as well, up still right on the back of Jason Green, Gardini, Monty. This pack is still not battling, and they're still losing time to Megan Overstreet.
Well, there's no replacement. As I say, when it comes to engines, there's no replacement for displacement, and in this case, there's no replacement for speed. Megan's just flat out faster than these drivers.
Yep, absolutely there is. And while we just saw Megan go off track a little bit, let's talk about off tracks. And we also can talk about there are some extra points awarded as well for the cleanest driver every week, if I'm correct.
I think you get 2 or 3 points. Let me pull up my notes, actually. There are 4 points if you manage to run a race with 0 incident points, and 2 points if you manage to run the race with only 1 incident point. And it is very difficult to do, but it could, over the course of the season, that could be what decides a position. So they have plenty of incentive to keep it clean. We see Megan kind of struggling with track limits in a few places. She might be pushing a little too hard, trying to catch up to the drivers ahead of her. Absolutely.
Randall, I just saw your Discord message, so let's do it real quick. You want to send it? Let's try to get through the field as quick as we can.
Absolutely. Dudu Castro leading the way with a 1.6 second lead over Alesh Pleva. Pleva had a good start and is holding on there to P2. Megan Overstreet falling off of these two a little bit, 5.5 seconds back in P4. We have Jason Green, who's been struggling but still keeping it solid in P4. Behind him, Joshua Justice, been pretty quiet, but overall really good race for him. Gardini there in 6th place with Miney behind, leading the Masters division in 7th. Behind them in 8th place on a bit of an island, Jesus Rodriguez running P8. Then back to the battle for the Spec 2 lead. We have Joshua Wilkie leading Pocock. We've seen this fight developing over the past few laps.
2/10 of a second now, Randall. He's getting very, very close.
Absolutely. Then a big gap back to Tom Gradwell in that 909 entry, followed by Andrew Love, who was up there in this battle for the Spec 2 lead earlier. A couple of mistakes sees him a few seconds back. Behind Andrew Love, we have Scott Russell in that number 22 entry. And then behind him, we have the pair of Ken Poulin and Jim Brewster. And then a quite sizable gap back to Charles Vaccaro in that 921 Captain Lawrence Brewing Racing entry.
I think I know that name, Randall. We've seen him around before.
We have seen the name Charles Vaccaro before in a few different series. Good to see an old friend come back. And Daniel Wood, the very first of the pitters, and we're going to have to really watch him to see if he has enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. Currently running in P17, P18, we have Adam Bradshaw, followed by Josh Soto. Josh Soto had that incident early in the race, now trying to make up spots. Antonio Race, who's able to get that car repaired, now running a recovery run ahead of Jeff Fritcher. Jeff Fritcher has also struggled, so he was up much further up in the field and is now struggling back in P21.
So Jeff Fritcher did make a pit stop on lap 10, which
You're right.
could be, but for him to make a pit stop on lap 10 in a Todio race to still be ahead of him, wonder if it was a pretty long pit stop. Looking at the pit time, the pit lane time, it was about 3-ish seconds slower than Antonio Reyes, and then his pit window or his pit time in the pit box was about 3 seconds slower as well.
So Antonio may have timed that incident well in that he'll be able to take advantage of not having to pit again. He may have to save a little fuel. As we take a look at Jeff Jacobson in P22, followed closely by Brad Cathcart in the Masters division in that 905 entry. Jason Perry, he's made a pit stop. He was working his way through the field, so once this pit cycle shakes out, expect to see him in the top 15, currently 24th. Russell Telker in P25, running that 260 entry from the good old USA. And P26, we have Jason Greider, that 552, also from the good old USA.
Bringing up the rear there. Back to the front, though. Dudu Castro, 1.5 seconds. It looks like it may have come down just a little bit. I think Alace Pleva is really now starting to get on the move, and you wonder again if Dudu maybe is trying to start saving some fuel now, knowing that he's got such a sizable gap. Really coming down, actually. 1.1 almost.
It looked like Dudu got that section of 8, 9, and 10 a little bit wrong, and Pleva was able to close up quite a bit during that. It shows you just how one little mistake can have a big impact, especially when it leads onto a straightaway like that stretch between turns 10 and 11.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan Overstreet now has been, nope, just kidding. I clicked on the wrong person. Megan Overstreet, speaking of islands, is definitely on an island by herself. Green, Justice, Gardini, and York still right on the back of each other. And Jesus Rodriguez has joined this fight as well.
And we've seen this group has gotten a fifth member, so Rodriguez really found some pace here and was able to close that gap up. Going to join this group. Probably we're going to see him pit first, I would guess, to try to dispatch these guys as quickly as possible and make some overtakes on the pit lane.
Wilkie in the pits.
You see Josh Wilkie in the pits.
Yeah, Wilkie is going to be one of the first of the leaders to come in, going to give up that position to Caleb Pocock. Now, let's see what happens here because they were extremely close. Caleb now has a bit of free air, not worried about anybody in front of him. If I'm Caleb right now, I am putting in as fast of a lap as I can put in, and I'm coming in at the end of this lap, Randall.
Yeah, we'll see if he reacts to that move by Wilkie or not. I see right now Adam Bradshaw is on 1.5 minutes on a toe, so it looks like Bradshaw had some problems there after we brought him up on the screen. Maybe a bit of the commentator's curse as I'm watching now. Wilkie comes out right in front of Soto.
Now, we do have a bit of a thing here, so we're going to have to go back and look at this replay. It is showing that Joshua Wilkie crashed. I'm wondering if something happened in pit lane or if he just got slow. So here he is coming out on pit exit right now. Everything seems to be okay at the moment.
That pit exit is just so tight. I think that on this corner, he just got so slow that it triggered that there might be an incident in our live timing. And in fact, he was out of the pit lane clean and came out in front of Josh Soto.
Yep, absolutely. Caleb Pocock decides to skip pit entry this time. Caleb going to try to run it maybe all the way to the end of that fuel limit, which may not be a bad idea, Randall. It just really all depends because as he runs longer, obviously, you're not going to have to put as much fuel in the car, but you are also running longer, so it is going to be a bit slower. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, Randall.
We see Jason Green is in the pit lane right now. They're still going to have to put the same amount of fuel in. He just has more opportunity to save, to possibly put less in. But what he's taking advantage of is the lower overall weight in the car as it burns off fuel, maybe able to make faster lap times and hoping that Wilkie has to deal with traffic that he doesn't have to deal with right now.
What would you do? I think at this point, Pocock has basically made his bed. He's got to lay in it. You really do have to start saving as much fuel as possible. Try to take as little fuel to make it to the end. And we're going to see what exactly happens with that. Pit stops are pretty important. I mean, 1 second longer in the pits equates to quite a bit of time on track.
You can lose and gain so much track position just by having a good pit entry and exit and a short stop. So we'll see what he does. But I think you're right. He's made his decision that he's going to stay out there. I think he's going to try to run this dry and come in, maybe not this lap, but in a lap or possibly 2 laps if he saved enough fuel to go for an extra lap. He runs close. A little bit wide there, probably picking up that off track. We look back at Tom Gradwell, also a bit of an island himself, so we'll see him come into the pit lane within the next few laps. They normally have about 30 minutes of fuel, so I think everybody that hasn't pit yet is largely going to stay out until they're completely dry, with the exception of Joshua Justice, who is now on pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Joshua Justice in the pits now. Pocock still up there with Jesus Rodriguez, Claudio Gardini, and Jorg Mani. It's now just a 3-car battle because of the pit stops. See what exactly happens here. Jorg now in a bit of clean air, maybe trying to do a little bit with it. You can see he has stretched that gap just a little bit to Claudio Gardini. Not huge, but it was a little bit bigger than they were when it was in a 5-car field.
Watching Joshua Justice come out of the pits now, he's going to have a little bit of traffic to contend with, but he's going to be in a position to slipstream.
Oh,
I'm hearing, ooh, a little bit of target fixation there, and I'm hearing something over the radio from Dudu Castro, so we got to look at that gap. It's under a second now. I don't know what happened up there. Maybe some lap traffic that he was dealing with, but these leaders have come back together, and there is another car there. So yeah, it looks like he had a little bit of an issue making his way through some lap traffic. The blue flag is informational only, so there's no expectation for him to get completely out of the way. And then he runs away, both run wide. So Alesh had a good opportunity to take advantage of that mistake, and then he follows him right off.
Yeah, absolutely. That was well, I mean, they didn't lose, at least Alesh didn't lose that much time. Did Dudu actually even gain some time through that exchange? Yeah, Alesh now only 0.7 of a second back. Dudu is slow. I mean, he has been slower than Alesh for the past 10 minutes or so.
Been marginally slower. Alesh has now closed that gap up. He's going to be within slipstream range, so I expect these drivers are going to come into pit this time by possibly. They might be able to stretch one more lap. I think right now, with the point situation, Alesh, if I recall, is leading the points. Dudu's down in like 6th or 7th because of missing a week and a bad week at Monza. So he's going to be more interested in leading as many laps as possible to keep that most laps led away from Alesh and possibly prevent him from leading a lap at all by running this tank as dry as he can. Jörg Manny coming out of the pits. Going to be coming out into some traffic possibly. Yes, Joshua Justice there with another car. He's going to slot in behind. So we're going to see that group reform as they come out of the pit lane.
Oh, no.
And the 160 car, Jason Green, running wide again. He's really been struggling with track limits today, though he's been able to lead this group as it reforms after the pit stops. He's still at the front.
Jason absolutely fighting to keep that position, but it doesn't look like Joshua Justice wants to let him have that position. He is pushing him now down the straightaway here, coming in shortly to the chicane. Yeah, I think they're definitely, absolutely, it's elbows out after the pit stop. Now they got to go for positions.
Absolutely. We see the leaders are coming into the pits as well as Andrew Love. Top two cars both take the pit lane. I expect we'll see Megan Overstreet soon follow, and Claudio. Yes, Megan jumps into the pit lane. Claudio will likely follow her as well as Jesus. Caleb Pocock now is going to be pitting soon as well. We'll see where his battle with Wilkie shakes out after they make their stops. These two drivers going a little bit longer possibly. Have they pit yet?
They have not pit, no.
They have not pit, so they're able to stretch it out for one more lap. Going to steal. Claudio's going to get a point for leading a lap. Rodriguez is going to follow him. These two are almost certainly going to be coming into the pit lanes next time by.
My goodness, they're not working together, let's say. Rodriguez is definitely breathing down the back end of that Spec Racer Ford of Gardini. We have oh no, we may have a bit of an issue here. Let's take a look at what happened. It's showing a Dudu Castro crash. I think it's just the pit exit, like you mentioned.
Probably just a pit exit. He practiced this a lot in the practice session. We see Charles Vaccaro getting involved in this lead battle. I think he's a lap down. We're going to see Dudu, just slow through there. So not really an incident, just slow out of pit lane. But Dudu does retain the effective race lead. If right now Claudio has the overall race lead, it's going to be very temporary.
Yep. Alesh Pleva has not really let him go that much, though, about 0.8 of a second. So it was a bit of a slower pit stop as well for Alesh. His pit lane time was 37.1. Dudu's was 36.9. So, yeah, that would make the difference in that gap there. Now Dudu is back on the throttle. Alesh really going to have to do something here. He's only got 7 minutes to do it.
And we'll see if these two, if Alesh is still able to hang with him, if maybe Dudu was playing a bit of rope-a-dope by saving some fuel just to get that faster pit stop there right in the last laps before he made his stop. Right now, though, it seems like he's able to hold on. We take a look back. Joshua Justice still following Joshua Green with Jörg Manny behind them, and we're seeing
Pocock in the pits.
Claudio.
We've got Pocock now in the pits. Going to see what exactly happens at this point now. Pocock now on his exit. We're looking for Joshua Wilkie back there. Keep an eye on the pit exit right now. Joshua Wilkie coming down the front stretch. It looks like Wilkie's going to hold this position. Actually gained quite a bit of time on Pocock through that pit exchange.
He did. He got a lot of time. But on the other side of this, I just watched Claudio rejoin, and he rejoined ahead of Joshua Green, so was able to jump from third to first in that battle for fourth place by saving some fuel. He had a very short pit stop, only 29.9 registered for his stop time on my timing. So we'll see if he's put enough fuel in the car to be able to run this to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have Jason Greider up there in front of them right now. This is not what you want to see. I know the lap cars are going to finally find a way to get out of the way. But if we're talking about tracks that is it's difficult to get out of the way on, this is one of them, Randall. And this is not a good position. Actually, it is. Look at him. He just moves out of the way down the front stretch for these 4 drivers.
And right now, I'm looking at 2 different timing screens. I'm seeing Scott Russell up in there involved, but actually it looks like it's shaken out and he's back in 17th, so never mind. Let's say, where did Scott Russell come from? But this group of 5 that we looked at before the pit stops is now seemingly a group of 4. Who's missing from this? It's Rodriguez.
Yes, it absolutely is. What happened to Jesus Rodriguez way back down there in 19th place? We can take a gander. Let's take a look here, Randall. Pit exit. Got to be where this happens. Maybe it's just a super long pit stop. Pit lane time was 47 seconds, Randall.
Yeah, I'm looking at my timing screen. He was on pit lane for quite a long time, so I'm thinking that he probably picked up a speeding penalty on entry and was held there for a good 40 seconds while he served that penalty before they were able to service the car, and that has absolutely ruined his race.
Yeah, that is well, it's not unbelievable because I do it all the time, but that is unfortunate for Jesus Rodriguez. Dudu Castro back up here in the lead. Aleix Pleva has tracked him down again. I think we've got a battle on our hands for the last 5 minutes of this race.
We absolutely do. Aleix wants those points away from Dudu. He does not want Dudu to be able to close that gap at all. Dudu, even if he finishes second here, is going to get a lot of points. It's really going to help him move up the standings. But Aleix, even if he comes in second as well, he's going to be sitting pretty well in the championship overall. But he's definitely keeping this pressure on Dudu, and it does not seem like he's just happy with second place. He wants that win.
He does, and he is there now. They're about to come down the front stretch. This would be a good overtaking opportunity, but you got to get it down before you go into turn 1. Aleix right on the back of him. 4 minutes to go. Is he going to hang out behind him? I don't think that's what Aleix is going to do. Aleix shows his nose down to the inside, tucks back in, shows it again, Randall. Here we go.
Yeah, we got to move. We're going 3 laps to go. We're serving lap 23 of what is potentially a 25-lap race. He's leaving enough space there. They both run pretty wide at between the apexes of turn 2. He's not able to get the move done, but he's definitely showing his aggression and making Dudu wonder, when is the move going to come? Selling a bit of the dummy there to try to get Dudu to defend. But right now, still sitting in P2, but we definitely have a fight on our hands.
Now let's go back to a couple weeks ago, Randall. There was a bit of drama-ish. Dudu is a very, very fierce racer. Fast, but fierce, I would think is the right word. He's not just going to roll over and let Aleix go by.
Absolutely not. Dudu is here to win. He needs the win. He needs to maximize his points to make his way up the leaderboard. So he is definitely just as hungry as Aleix for this win, and he is an absolute beast when it comes to defense and very difficult to get around.
Yep, absolutely. And when you've got a driver like that around a track like this, it makes it difficult. We're not at Monza anymore. You don't get the slipstream. You don't get the super heavy braking zones like you did at Monza. So it's going to be even tougher now for Aleix to make this happen. If he's going to make it happen, though, he has to make it happen within the next 2.5 minutes. Excuse me. So what is that, Randall? About 2-3 laps?
We should be 2 laps to go this time by. We're definitely going to make this a 25-lap race, so we should not see the white flag in the flag stand this time by. No, I didn't see it. So 2 to go. This time we're going to see Aleix poke his nose out again. Is he going to go for the same move? No, he's going to think better of it. Not quite as close as he was last lap, but definitely lets Dudu know what is going to be coming, and I think that's where we're going to see the race for the win really shake up next time by.
I wonder if he's trying to show his nose now to get Dudu just to drive in there just a little bit deeper, maybe, so he compromises his turn 2 exit. Actually, speaking of compromising, Dudu goes a little bit wide. Aleix is now right back onto the back bumper. Maybe he tries to catch him by surprise here.
I think that was just a wider entry by Dudu, not feeling the pressure and not expecting an attack there. Takes a wider entry to get a good run off the corner to make sure he's got the pace down that little bit of a straightaway before they get to the triple left. You see he's running a little bit wider, getting that later apex so he gets a good run off. And you can see the gap opens up a little bit. Dudu's getting a better run off the corner for now. But right now, Alesh needs to stay close, but he doesn't want to be too close because he needs to have a good run coming out of that final corner to really make that move stick into turn 1. So if you get right up on his gearbox, you're going to have problems. But he's definitely playing psychological games, showing Dudu the nose once again, hoping to generate some sort of mistake.
Oh,
right
no.
now, Dudu looking cool as a cucumber, but actually gets a pretty bad run. I think this might be a little bit of gamesmanship actually out of Dudu. I think he kind of sacrificed there on purpose to close that gap up. And we see Alesh looking to the inside on the final corner. This is going to kill both of their runs off the corner, but most importantly, it's going to kill Alesh's run off the corner. So I think we saw just a little bit of gamesmanship out of the cagey Dudu Castro.
Here we go again, though. Looks like Dudu going to be able to hold on to that position for one more lap. And is this the lap right here? I was on board. Let's see if we can go back to somebody and see if we can actually see a flag flying. Hopefully we can. We got some people coming across. There is a white flag in the air, so this is the final lap. Aleix Pleva going left, going right, doing whatever he can to find a way around that black number 73 car. One of the most difficult cars to pass in this league for sure. It can't get it done yet, Randall.
Yeah, we might see Alesh pretend that he has a can opener on the front of that car and try to make a hole if he can't find one. So keep your eyes peeled on this battle for the win, because it's going to get spicy coming into the last sector of the track.
Dudu goes wide again.
Yeah, Dudu, he's really just taking the normal racing line, but Castro keeps that nose planted on the inside, because if he gets there just a little bit, Dudu's left the door open, so he's kind of inviting him in there. It could end in disaster for both of them, but right now they've managed to get through it cleanly.
Yep, for now, and they're about to come up into the chicane here. He's got about 2 more passing opportunities, does Aleix, if he wants to make this happen. To the right, to the left. Is he going to be able to gain any time through this? He is. It's now about 0.2 of a second. He's going to have to go. This final corner, one more corner to go for the win from Dudu Castro. Aleix is going to go for this send, Randall.
He goes for the send, and they leave enough space for each other, but he's just not going to have enough to get it done. They're going to drag race down the start-finish straight, and it's going to be Dudu Castro that comes out with the win over Aleix Pleva by 0.5 We see Megan Overstreet coming off the last corner there. She's going to bring it home third. Claudio Gardini is going to win this battle for P4, it looks like, as long as he keeps it on the track there. Yes, he does. Jason Green going to come home 5th. Joshua Justice hot on his tail, followed by Jörg Manny, and Daniel Wood did have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. Comes home with a solid P8 at their really early pit stop.
Yep, great by Daniel Wood. Joshua Soto with a great drive back up into 9th position. Joshua Wilkie back there in 10th with Antonio Reese. Sorry, Joshua Wilkie was the S2 winner, by the way. Antonio Reese back there in 11th place. Jeff Fritcher coming home 12th. Caleb Pocock looks like he's coming home 13th, and he is with Brad Cathcart in 14th. Jeff Jacobson in 15th. Jason Perry, man, what a drive. Speaking of positions made up, 11 positions made up, Randall.
11 positions on a very tricky track. He would have been hoping for more, but 11 still pretty darn good. Antonio Reese, I think, is going to be the actual story of this race. Only 3 cars between he and Manny. So I think he managed to pick up that damage at just the right time. Didn't lose a whole lot of time. So still going to be pretty happy with the finish that he got.
Yeah, absolutely. Russell Tilker now we're on board with. He is about to cross the line in 22nd place with Jason Grider. Looks like he has already finished. No, he has not. Yes, he has. Jason Grider has finished.
He has finished it. If he hadn't, he's looking really slow, so maybe struggling for fuel, but he has definitely come across the line. We see the last of the drivers finish this race, and your winner, Dudu Castro, by 0.5.
Yep, unbelievable result by Dudu Castro with Aleix Pleva in 2nd place, Megan Overstreet in 3rd, Claudio Gardini 4th, Jason Green 5th, Joshua Justice 6th. You have to go all the way back to 7th place to see a different driver. People driving backwards on the track. There's all kinds of chaos going on right now behind us, but I don't even know where I was. We're going to start with Jörg Manny there in 7th place, first driver in a different series. Top 6 obviously go to S1. Jörg Manny in the Masters in 7th, Daniel Wood 8th, Joshua Soto 9th. Joshua Wilkie comes home with the S2 win in 10th position. Antonio Reese 11th, Jeff Fritcher 12th, Caleb Pocock 13th, Brad Cathcart 14th, Jeff Jacobson in 15th, Jason Perry, Scott Russell, Jesus Rodriguez round out your top 18. 19th place goes to Jim Brewster, Ken Poulin 20th, Tom Gradwell, Russell Telker, Jason Greider in 21st, 22nd, 23rd, Charles Vaccaro in, in 24th place, Andrew Love 25th, Adam Bradshaw 26th, Todd Martin 27th, Gary Woble, Stevie Ray, Bob Kern did not take to the field tonight.
And I'm looking around at pit lane, and guess who I found, Adam?
I see. I think I know who you found. Did you find the winner of the overall race and the Spec 1 winner?
That's absolutely right. I have in the booth now your winner, Dudu Castro, by half a tenth. Dudu, take us through the closing stages of that race and your battle with Alesh.
Well, first of all, congrats, Alesh. He did a great job coming back and shortening the distance that I put on him. He was doing the last corner like 2/10 faster than I was, and the whole circuit, the whole rest of the circuit, I was faster than him, but he was gaining so much on the last corner that he could shorten the distance. Then we caught a lapped car. He didn't allow us to pass, and then it shorted more than that. And the biggest issue for me was since this week that iRacing had some issues. I don't know if they changed the servers or what happened, but I'm getting more latency than usual, and I knew because Alice was in Europe too, he was getting a lot of latency too, so I was really afraid to have a net code with him, and that happened in the last corner in the last lap. He didn't touch me, but I felt the touch, and it was good because I did a good pit. Technically, I did a perfect pit because my engine just cut on top of the line, so. Was a kind of lucky. It was a kind of, a lot of practice that I did during this week in this track. Maybe something like 12 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, we saw in practice you came in to set the fastest lap and then was done. Other than towards the end, you did some pit practice. So clearly, you came into this race fast. How confident were you that you were going to get this win today?
I knew I was going to do well. I didn't know that I couldn't predict that I could win, but I know that I'll be fighting for the first. That situation that I jumped to the server and then left was because my stream just got an issue, and then I had to reboot everything, so I couldn't stream this race. I don't know what happened with my computer, but
oh, we know a thing or two about computer issues, Dudu. Trust me, I've been running into the same problems today, buddy.
Yes, man, yes. And I'm telling you, I lost like 130 iRatings this week because I had like a 1 second disconnecting, and wasn't my connection, was server's issue. But it is what it is. But I was confident. I did a little save fuel and being fast at the same time. Save fuel to turn 1 and 2. Doing a late downshifting. Yeah, I think I had a good set for this one too. So I'm happy. 5 races, 3 wins. I'm happy to come back on the first place.
Anybody, before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Oh, well. Once again, thanks, Alex. He did a great, clean race with me. Thanks to Steve for making this league enjoyable for everyone, and of course our family always. And you guys, of course, I can't forget you guys.
Well, congratulations on your win. We'll let you go now. That was Dudu Castro, your overall winner. Adam, have you found anybody to wrangle?
Yeah, and there I started to have a pretty loose rear end.
I've been walking through the pit lane here. Hello, Joshua. I think I found Joshua while he was talking to probably not another reporter. I hope
having
not,
a little debrief there.
Yeah. I was going to say, but we better not have any other reporters here other than Slow Motion Broadcasting. But anyways, Joshua, first place in S2. Congratulations on that. It was a bit of a battle there with Caleb Pocock before the pit stops. What'd you do different for the pit exit, or I mean, what exactly happened? Because you came out and you were about a second clear of Caleb.
I'm not 100% sure. We were actually just talking about it. I feel like I hustled the pit lane pretty good. I'm noticing by my fuel here too that I kind of just made it to the end, so I didn't overfuel. So it might have had something to do with that. I may have just taken a little bit less fuel than him or something. I had a really nice in lap and a decent out lap. Really not sure though, but yeah, it's my first win in S1, so pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely great race. Also, got to give you a shout out on the livery as well. It's pretty cool livery.
Thanks,
yeah, absolutely. But where are we going next? Because I should know that question, but I don't. But are you confident that you can keep this winning streak alive?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's really tough in there. I'm kind of just learning how to drive these cars. Last year, I think I had like 7 DNFs, 8 DNFs, just learning how to drive with these guys. And they're so good. It's such a great group of guys to talk to and girls to talk to and everything else that, yeah, I'm finally getting my hands around the car and really enjoying this and watching the broadcast after and everything. So thanks a lot to everybody and Stevie and the drivers out there. And hopefully I can keep up in the top 3 here and we'll see how it goes.
Well, you're doing my job for me because I was going to ask who you wanted to thank and who you wanted to shout out, and I did find out where you're going, so good luck next week at Mid-Ohio, Joshua.
Right on. Great track. Looking forward to it. See you then.
That was Joshua Wilkie, first place in the S2 division. We don't have a winner in Masters class, so what we're going to do here, I think, is we're going to go... Let's take a bit of more of a walk down pit lane here, Randall. We're going to find, I think there's a Caleb. Did you find Caleb Pocock?
There is a Caleb Pocock in the pit lane, and with my microphone in his face, Caleb, tell us about your race.
It was a pretty decent race. I was chasing down Josh there for a bit, and then I was feeling good, and then we pitted, and he was way ahead, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm not going to win this one.
The overcut did not work to your advantage today. Tell us what you were thinking there once you saw Wilkie pull in. Were you planning to just run it out, or was that a last-minute decision?
It was easier for me to calculate the fuel if I just ran it down, so I was hoping I could run comparable laps, but it looks like I was a little slower, and then he got some drafting help, so kind of spread us out, and then not enough laps left there at the end.
But still, overall, a good race for you. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go back?
Just Weekend Warriors. Love this league. Had a lot of fun. I took a little time off, so it's good to be back and running good.
And Adam is just dying to get in on this conversation. I can tell. Adam, is there a question you had for Caleb?
No, there actually wasn't. I was going to ask, and then, because my co-commentator does such a great job at his job. See what
shucks.
I did there? You stole my question away from me. So, yeah, congratulations, Caleb, on the second place in S2. We hope to see you on the podium next time. You got pretty close.
All right, thank you.
That was Caleb Pocock there, second place in the S2 division. Randall, what'd you think? Pretty good race, huh?
I'm telling you, this has become one of my favorite series to watch, and I'm talking about between sim racing and real life racing. These guys are always putting on a show. It is incredible to watch these drivers every week. It seems like we have a different story developing every race, different drivers up there fighting for positions and different wins in different divisions. So keep your eyes on this league.
Absolutely, and we do have one more broadcast coming up for you tonight. Cross Series League Racing tonight at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be in the car, the SMB car, but I think we may have another Sudi car running by the name of Justin Hall. Going to be running with me, so yeah, absolutely. You what? Basically. Yes, absolutely. We will be back-to-back in the same room. It's going to be a great time, so make sure to tune in for that one. Tim Cox on the call. Again, Asphalt Street Stocks at the Charlotte Oval. That is the final Charlotte Oval of Cross Series League Racing. Now, when it comes to these upcoming broadcasts, Randall, as you know, there was a bit of an issue in the iRacing community this week. You see how that
Slight
says,
issue.
Yeah, so it says that we're going to be running at VIR next week in the Sim Car, the All GT3 League. We're not going to be running at VIR. We're going to be at Daytona because we couldn't get a broadcast going live because iRacing decided to get DDoSed. So yes, next Thursday, July 18th, GT3's Sim Car going to be at Daytona International Raceway and not Virginia International Raceway. Next Sunday, we're coming back, though, to the Weekend Warriors series. Going to be in the Formula Ford first at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time at the Hungaro Ring, Mid-Ohio at 3:45 in the Spec Racer Ford. Randall, you have any closing thoughts, or do we want to get out of here?
What a race. Another great race, and I expect more of the same next week out of these drivers.
Absolutely, me too. Let's get out of here before our power goes out because it just flickered. We've got a storm coming in. Bye, guys.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but